from informal settlement eradication to a right to the city in Africa. Is that important? Absolutely it is. Well, I'll tell you what, after 3 o'clock in the spotlight, Andile Khumalo, president of the Association for the Advancement of Black Accountants of Southern Africa. I was going to say don't miss it. Maybe I should say don't you dare miss it. It's going to be that good. Coming up, the news at 3.
Afternoon Talk on SAFM.
Okay, so let's move on. It's been a theme, isn't it? Issues of poverty, issues of housing development. So maybe we move on from there, from poverty to housing, and then issues of making money. And maybe Andile Khumalo falls into that bracket, hopefully, of making money. Question is, you want to get a safe job, become an accountant, I think. I don't know if that's true. Anyway, Andile Khumalo is in the spotlight, and we do that for the next 45 minutes before we get to Radio VUCA. As per usual, I would love it if you call in, and particularly so, I mean, anybody can call in, really. It's no holds barred there anytime, but would love it, particularly if you know Andile Khumalo specifically, if you've had the chance to be, well, maybe in the same organizations, or some civic groups maybe at school, maybe you're a school teacher, I don't know. It would be great if you did that. If there's something that you can share about Andile Khumalo, one question you may want to ask, what do you think is the most important question we should be asking? But if you have one really fascinating fact as we celebrate the life of Andile Khumalo, I'd love you to call in. To do that, 0891104207, 0891104207. Make a note of the SMS number, 34701, 34701. They cost 2 rands a go. And you can also stay in touch with us on my Twitter feed, Ashraf Garda 1. Lots of tweets taking place there, no question about that. And on Facebook, the Ashraf Garda fan page and the personal page. And I can tell you now, lots of people already commenting in advance on Facebook, so I'll read some of those comments actually in just a moment. Let me also remind you, I'd love it if you suggest who we should be talking to and who you would like us to put in the spotlight. Email me, ashraf@safm.co.za. You spell Ashraf ASHRAF. Your suggestions, we will certainly pick up on it. Certainly lots of people I've met in the last few days. We'll try and get them into the studio in the next week or two. Right, Andile Khumalo, president of ABASA, which is the Advancement of Black Accountants of South Africa. Also, Chief Financial Officer, CFO of MSG Africa Investment Holdings, and the chairperson of Metropolitan Republic. Andile, you seem like you've got it made on all 3 fronts. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Good afternoon.
Yeah, you've got it made on all 3 fronts. I mean, one of them is a subsidiary, I take it, of a bigger agency. I'm talking of Metropolitan Republic. And then accountants, I mean, strategically, it's absolutely critical to hit an organization like that. So you're satisfied with your life, yeah?
Well, I'm not sure about satisfaction, but I think things are largely going according to plan. Thank you very much for having me over. It's been a long journey, and the journey can only get more interesting from here on out.
Yeah, you say according to plan. What was the plan for you?
You know, what's funny is that, if you think back kind of as long as I can remember, all I've ever wanted to be was an entrepreneur. It's all I read about. It's all I was ever interested in. And all the way back from high school, I used to be quite the entrepreneurial one. I sold all sorts of things that I could sell to my schoolmates back in school, and we eventually actually set up a whole tuck shop in our high school back in New Lindsay Secondary down in Durban.
So you understood even at high school that you were this entrepreneur in action. Whether you were making money, or was it okay? You make something, but really you're testing the grounds of just seeing whether there's demand and how you can actually sell goods to people.
I guess, and also perhaps even back then, some of the marketing and ad space was starting to kind of make an impression on me. What we had back in school, in high school, was a particularly, crazy situation. We had no tuck shop in school, and the school relied on the neighbors and some of the aunties in the neighborhood to come and sell stuff. In fact, for security reasons or whatever, those ladies couldn't even sell in the school. So we all had to kind of rush out by the fence and stick in our 50 cents and 1 rand and 2 rands through those little holes on the school fence to buy chips and etc. And I approached the headmaster and I suggested to him that if we could use one of my teachers as classroom, Mr. Lawrence, who was my biology teacher then, we should set up a tuck shop for the school. And I'm happy to get into a deal with the school that all profits may accrue to the school on condition that we get to use them for our matric ball.
Okay, so you were negotiating at a very young age already.
I didn't know exactly what I was doing back then. It just kind of sounded natural to me.
Well, it seems pretty natural anyway. Right, 0891 104 207. I'll run through some Facebook comments already. Some interesting questions people asking. Let me just see if I can get to that. Right, Wandile Kuzwayo saying, what role does he, meaning yourself, play as the head of a BASA to make those varsities like the University of Zululand, University of Limpopo, and I think it's UNITRA, to gain SAICA, South African Institute of Chartered Accountants accreditation?
Well, we at BASA have a very aggressive program to get to that. You know, Ashraf, one of the biggest issues we have about increasing the numbers of black chartered accountants or even chartered accountants as a whole, is access.
Mm-hmm.
So SAICA, the custodian of the profession, accredits universities. So basically, an Ashraf Gado and Andile Kumalo can only go to certain universities in order to qualify as CAs.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't go to the accredited ones, you're going to have to do a bridging year of sorts in other universities in order to be able to sit for their board exams. So if we could accredit as many former black universities as possible, that effectively means that an average child in an average township can go to the nearest university and qualify as a CA, as opposed to historically what's happened. Many people have had to move either to Johannesburg, studied UJ, move to Durban, or move to Cape Town, study UCT, etc. So,
and that ties in naturally with the other dire need, which is still this incredible shortage of black chartered accountants, isn't it?
Indeed. And to put into context, the shortage is chartered accountants. The challenge we have is that the biggest source of future chartered accountants come from black people, to the extent that they make north of 70% of the country's population. So if you do your numbers, which I guess as accountants we're inclined to, that is where your pipeline is going to come from. So if you can specifically deal with what are the socio-economic challenges that affect black people specifically, that could be a deterrent to becoming CAs, then you know over time you'll create a bigger pipeline. So the accreditation process has been identified as one of the key ones. So we've got a program called the Nkutha's Intervention Fund. Last year we accredited the University of Fort Hare down in the Eastern Cape. Last week we got great news about the University of Limpopo, the firm at Turflop, that we've got conditional accreditation, and we're hoping to move on to the universities mentioned on the Facebook post, like University of KZN, the former Ongoye, and also Walter Sisulu, the former UNITRA.
Okay, now Wendy from Durban wants to ask a question that, I would have asked anyway, but I think we'll give her the privilege. Hi, Wendy.
That's great. Thanks, Asha.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What I wanted to find out is why you called your organization the Black Chartered Accountants Organization instead of just the Chartered Accountants Organization. I feel if we continue saying the black this or the white that or the Indian that or whatever, we are all South Africans. Why not just call it the Chartered Accountant Association? Another thing is that what is stopping anybody from becoming an accountant? Go to school, get the good grades. If that's what you want to do, go to high school. Get your diploma from high school. Make an application for bursary, especially if you're a black person from the government, and do it. What is stopping it? This whole march also that happened on Friday. That they're all marching to say we can't do this and we can't do that, and what is stopping them? Nothing is stopping them. Nothing's stopping them from being a great cricketer or a great rugby player so they can get into the team. It's just self.
You've made your point. Let's get a response. All right.
Okay,
I think you have. Thanks for that call. Right. Very important question, Andile.
Great stuff. Of course it is. Let me deal with the why Abasa. So we have in the profession of chartered accountants an organization called the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. They're the custodians of chartered accountants. So they accredit universities, they set the board exams, they do all sorts of things. And after 7 or so years, you become a chartered accountant. Okay? So park that. That's how I qualify as a chartered accountant. The particular problem we have is what perhaps a lot of people do not know. The profession of being a chartered accountant was only available to an exposed, to a very limited few. Okay? So we had, for example, Professor Wiseman Nkudli, the first African chartered accountant, only qualified in 1976. I was born 2 years later. So we're talking about a generational system that seeks to ostracize or leave out a certain group of people, which is the majority of this country. So we're dealing in a profession where we want to transform as much as we can. Just to spit out some numbers, of 33,000 odd chartered accountants we've got in the country, we've got just under 3,000 that are black. All right, so that kind of tells you the statistics
And
you're dealing with.
is that all shades of black?
That's all shades of black.
Okay, so that's it.
The last time I checked, I think all shades of black, in fact, African, colored, and Indian, I think we're sitting at about 12%.
Yeah.
So you've got 88% of the country, chartered accountants, coming from 10% of the country's population. And 12% of the country's chartered accountants coming from 80% of the population. So you can see, if you just use a basic 80-20 rule, we've got to get to a point where every single child, right from kind of grade 0 all the way to qualifying as CA, has got an equitable or an equal opportunity to qualify as a chartered accountant. So the reason why we have the organization, first of all, it's not an organization of black chartered accountants. Not every member of ABASA is black. What it is, it's an association for the advancement of black accountants of Southern Africa. In other words, all those who are members of ABASA seek to advance the cause of black chartered accountants.
Okay, so you actually can be white, you can be a Bears No Dear, for example, understanding the need to transform, and you would be part of that organization.
Indeed. So we were corporate members that include all sorts of organizations, irrespective of color or creed. However, our objective is very clear, and our objective is clearly to find a way to increase the number of black chartered accountants, because that way, and only that way, will we have a growing economy that is in custody of adequately qualified hands.
Okay.
We don't have an economy that relies on expats to be imported in order to make sure that it is taken care of.
Right. Andile Khumalo is in the spotlight, will remain in the spotlight up to 3:45, and probably as long as he's involved in those 3 companies that he talks about earlier on. I'll take further calls, Mashila, in a moment, 0891104207, and we'll also reflect a lot about his life and just why, as a potential entrepreneur, Andile decided that he had to study accountancy as well. We'll get the answers right after this.
Afternoon Talk on SAFM.
Andile Khumalo is my guest in the spotlight, president of ABASA, the advancement of black accountants of South Africa, also the chief financial officer of MSG Africa Investment Holdings, and the chairperson of Metropolitan Republic, a creative agency. Of course, I will get to one or two of the callers in a moment. Just want to go back, Andile, in terms of you. So you said entrepreneurship very much a part of your life. Talk to me about the decision then to study accountancy.
When I used to read all the business days and all the business reports and any other business media I could find when I was in university, and of course when I was in high school, I found out one constant theme. Every CEO of every listed company that I had respect for was a chartered accountant. They had this letter CASA behind their name, and I asked my teacher what that was, and they explained to me, no, this is what the profession is. You become a chartered accountant. I said, no, I don't want to be an accountant. I said, no, it's not quite like that. It's not an accountant per se, but it's the highest form of qualification in business. It competes with the MBA, which around the world is probably seen to be more exciting than being a chartered accountant. However, in our country, this is it, and they encouraged me to pursue it. So I went into the stream of studying chartered accountancy because I wanted to operate in the highest level of business.
Okay, with hindsight, was it a good decision that you made?
Best decision I've ever made. Second to marrying my wife.
Okay, fine. Right. What is your worst decision?
Worst decision? Oh, you got me there. I think on my journey to where I am now, there's a couple of frogs I've had to kiss along the way in terms of business partners, career decisions. Just finding myself in places where perhaps if I spend a little bit longer thinking about, it's not a move I should have made. Of course, with hindsight, psychologists will tell you that those are the things that build you, that those are the things that you perhaps kind of have to go through to get to where you are.
Well, give us some examples. I mean, we want to learn from you. The country wants to learn from you. Give us some examples of where you went wrong and then how you fixed it.
I think there was a time, in my career, certainly there was an opportunity to join a business, a certain company, that invited me to join them and assist them kind of at a more executive level. And this was at a time that I had moved out of the banking world at Investec and I started my business. And these guys look for certain insight and certain assistance. And I found myself, engrossed in a lot of detail in this particular business that was answerable to all sorts of shareholders. And whilst my time there was short, I found myself, beneath your death. And I found myself that I chewed a little bit more than I bit a little bit more than I could chew. And there I was answering up to questions and answering up to all sorts of things that had absolutely nothing to do with me. And I lacked at the time the assertiveness to say, no, this particular thing has nothing to do with me. In my realm of control, this is what I can or cannot do. And that experience taught me the importance of your yes meaning yes and your no meaning no. And I think that's perhaps something I wish I had not have had to do. But like I said before,